James.
What do you make, Matt, of the way that the Labor vote has now shifted? You saw this really interesting thing here where now Labor is the party in Queensland of just simply the inner city urban metropolitan seats. I'll note that of the 7 seats that Labor held in 2012, 3 of them have gone back to the LNP in this election, Mulgrave, Rockhampton, and I think Mackay. What do you make of the message about Labor and their broadly, it would seem to be out of touchness, particularly when you look at how Stephen Miles acted after the vote was cast, with the broader electorate?
Well, it's been a sea change. I mean, those 3 seats you've mentioned, we haven't held for 100 years or more. Some of them we've never held. The Labor Party are in crisis mode up here in North and Central Queensland because they just fail to represent these. I mean, politics is all local. You've got to represent your constituents. And the Labor Party, over many years now, have decided to deride and want to shut down the coal industry. They've done nothing to help farmers suffer under huge amounts of green tape. And, of course, the Bruce Highway is in a third world state right now. It's probably got more potholes than the moon has. And so you add all those things up and people have revolted against the Labor Party up here, and yet they lose seats like Rockhampton, which we haven't won for 100 years, Mackay, which we've never won, and we've smashed them there. So we've just got to now deliver for those people, fix those issues that I mentioned. And I mean, I think another thing here that's happened is the Labor Party become so obsessed with the threat of the Greens in inner city Brisbane, they've forgotten about the rest of the state, and that strategy has been shown to be completely bankrupt because another great result from last night we should not forget is the complete destruction of the Greens party here in Queensland. Yes. They've lost at least half their seats. They might lose all of their seats just yet. And I think we've reached peak Greens. I mean, voting for the Greens is a bit of a luxury good, and we're definitely not living a life of luxury anymore. After 10 years of Labor here in Queensland, after just 2 years of Labor federally, we're suffering under high cost of living, high interest rates, and people can no longer afford the luxury of voting Green.
Now, you've got net zero puts prices up behind you there, and you've got a very interesting admission this week from the Australian energy market operator about all these policies that we are embracing, the renewables, not actually guaranteeing lower prices. That's what we've been told. That's been the sell, that this was going to reduce prices.
Absolutely, Rita. I mean, the penny, I think, had already dropped for most Australians that this renewable scam is not delivering a better life for Australians. But it was still shocking to hear it confirmed so clearly from one of the greatest and loudest proponents of this scam over the past few years. So this guy, Daniel Westerman, is the head of the Australian Energy Market Operator, probably the most important regulator of energy markets in Australia. And for years, he's been telling us all that firmed renewables is the cheapest form of power. In fact, he said it on this channel just a few months ago. When I had, this is the first time, I should say, we've had him under oath in the Senate. He doesn't come to Senate estimates because he's a head of a corporation, not a government agency. It's all a bit weird. But he's under oath and he's actually admitted that no, renewable energy, the government, I asked him directly, the government policies, would they reduce power prices? And he said he can't guarantee that. And I mean, we've been told by the Prime Minister for years that his strategy would lower power prices for Australians. His best hand-picked operator of the energy market has just admitted that's not going to happen. I mean, isn't it about time we finally conclude that this experiment has failed? The renewable energy experiment in this country has totally failed. It's just left us with higher prices, deindustrialisation. They keep saying this is the least cost pathway for Australia. What they mean is what they do is they put in their model the constraints of 82% renewable, net zero emissions by 2050, and they say it's the least cost pathway to get to those objectives, not the least cost pathway to get you lower power prices. And what they're really saying is that the Anthony Albanese energy strategy is the least cost pathway to deindustrialise and impoverish Australia.
In other words, Matt, the entire election of Anthony Albanese is, in my opinion, built on a complete fraud, and that fraud is articulated virtually every day by Chris Bowen. But tell me, linking the two things, where does Queensland's state government now sit on nuclear energy, and the correct approach that you and your colleagues in the federal Liberal National Coalition are pushing for nuclear energy. Where's all that sit at the moment?
Well, look, David Crisafulli said quite openly that he is not, he doesn't have nuclear energy in his plans. Obviously, we have at the federal level a different plan. As Peter Dutton expressed months ago when we announced this policy, we don't need the state governments to be on board for this. In fact, many years ago, many moons ago, when the Snowy Hydro, the original Snowy Hydro, not the fraud that is the Snowy 2.0, but the original Snowy Hydro, when it was announced, the state governments of New South Wales and Victoria opposed it, and John Curtin pushed through anyway. He pushed the legislation through and got it started, and aren't we all blessed to have the benefit of that, of his courage? So I'm sure Peter Dutton will show similar courage and leadership. We'll see what state governments do across all of Australia when a Peter Dutton government is elected and we pursue this. But we clearly need more energy needs, and one thing that David Crisafulli has focused on is getting that Callide coal-fired power station here in central Queensland going again. We need that, because nuclear is great, I'm all for it, Rowan, but we need our beautiful, clean, cheap coal to be used as well. We've got to put an end to this absurdity where we're exporting our natural resources overseas for others to benefit from and industrialise and take our jobs by using it. We're about time we use it here in Australia. And just linking back to that Senate inquiry we spoke about, I asked the head of the energy regulator, I mean, why is it that the United States now has power prices a third of ours? So our power prices are now 3 times higher than the United States. We are blessed with very similar resources. We have same dispersed populations, and we are paying 3 times more for power. He couldn't answer it, which is shocking enough in itself. Why hasn't he looked at this? It's probably the most important question about our country's productivity and our economy. He couldn't even give an attempt to answer it. Yet clearly the problem is, in the US, last year they produced more oil than any country in any year in history. And they are benefiting from the low power prices, the bounty that generates. Whereas in this country, yeah, we're happy to export our gas, our coal, our uranium as well, to other nations, but we don't use it ourselves. It's totally insane. And now that we've got over this Pete Green psychosis, maybe we can come back to the land of reality and common sense and say, if we're going to be one of the world's biggest coal exporters, and we're happy to take the money from that, Queensland government's happy to take the royalties from that, maybe we should use some of it ourselves for our own country to look after Australians first.
100% Matt Canavan, we need to get coal back into a key part of our energy mix. 100% agree with you. Australians deserve cheap energy. It's our natural resource. You are 100% correct there. Matt Canavan, great to chat to you. Congratulations on that win there for the Liberal National Party up there in Queensland.